Today's topic is natural convection. This is Ankit Kumar. Let's take a quick look on the objectives of the topic. We'll understand the physical mechanism of natural convection. We'll derive the governing equation of natural convection and obtain the dimensionless Grashof number by non-dimensionalizing them. Evaluate the Nusselt number for natural convection associated with vertical, horizontal, and inclined plates as well as cylinders and spheres. We'll also analyze the natural convection inside enclosures such as double pane windows. Let's discuss the physical mechanism of natural convection. Many familiar heat transfer applications involve natural convection as the primary mechanism of heat transfer. Let's take an example of hot egg placed in a table of surrounding air. As soon as the hot egg is exposed to cooler air, the temperature of the outer surface of the egg shell drops somewhat and the temperature of air adjacent to the shell rises as a result of heat conduction from shell to air. The cooling process in this case is rather slow since egg would always be blanked by warm air and it has no direct contact with cooler air farther away. We may not notice any air motion in the vicinity of egg, but careful measurement would indicate otherwise. The temperature of the air adjacent to the egg is higher and thus its density is lower since at constant pressure the density of gas is inversely proportional to its temperature. Thus we have a situation in which some low density or light gas is surrounded by a high density or heavy gas and the natural laws dictates that the light gas rises. The space vacated by the warmer air in the vicinity of egg is replaced by the cooler air nearby and the presence of cooler air in the vicinity of egg speeds up the cooling process. The rise of warmer air and the flow of cooler air into its place continues until the egg is cooled to the temperature of surrounding air. The motion that results from continual replacement of the heated air in the vicinity of egg by cooler air nearby is called natural convection current, and the heat transfer that is enhanced as a result of this current is called natural convection heat transfer. We have to take a note that in the absence of natural convection current, heat transfer from the egg to the surrounding air would be by conduction only, and the rate of heat transfer from the egg would be much lower. So this is the just reverse case. If we place a cold bottle in a surrounding air, then the reverse phenomena what we are discussing in terms of hotted egg, the same phenomena but in reverse direction happened with a cold object in a hot air. So in a gravitational field, there is a net force that pushes upward a light fluid placed in a heavier fluid. The upward force exerted by the fluid on a body completely or partially immersed in it is called buoyancy force. So free convection refers to the fluid motion induced by buoyancy forces. Buoyancy force may arise in a fluid for which there are density gradients and a body force that is proportional to density. In heat transfer, density gradients are due to temperature gradients and body forces is gravitational. We already studied in the subject of fluid mechanics that what is buoyancy force. Let's take a quick look. The upward force exerted by a fluid on a body completely or partially immersed in it in a gravitational field. The magnitude of the buoyancy force is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the body, which is also be described by Archimedes' principle. And if you want to calculate the value of that buoyancy force, it is equal to density of fluid into gravitational force into the volume of the body. So the net vertical force acting on a body is equal to the difference of weight of the body minus the buoyancy force. So Archimedes' principle is, again we are discussing it, the body immersed in a fluid will experience a weight loss in an amount equal to the weight of the fluid it displaces. If the average density of egg is greater than density of water or density of fresh water, the egg settles at the bottom of the container. Otherwise, it rises at the top. When the density of egg is equal to the density of the water, The egg settles somewhere in the water while remaining completely immersed in water, acting like weightless object in space. This occurs when upward buoyancy force acting on an egg is equal to the weight of egg. The chimney effect that induces the upward flow of hot combustion gases through a chimney is due to buoyancy effect. We have to take important note here again that without buoyancy, heat transfer would be conduction instead of natural convection. If there is no noticeable gravity in space, there can be no natural convection in spacecraft, even if the spacecraft is filled with atmospheric air. Since the heat transfer, the primary variable is temperature, so it is desirable to express net buoyancy force in terms of temperature difference. But it requires expressing the density difference in temperature in terms of temperature difference, which requires a knowledge of a property that represents the variation of density of fluid with temperature at constant pressure. So we'll take this property as a volume expansion coefficient. So a property that represents the variation of density of fluid with temperature at constant pressure is volume expansion coefficient, or we can say the coefficient of thermal expansion of fluid. Its relation is with the specific volume in terms of density. Rearranging this equation at constant pressure, this is the relation for ideal gas. For large value of beta, for large value of beta for a fluid means a large change in density with temperature. The product beta into delta T represents fraction of volume change of fluid that corresponds to temperature change delta T at constant pressure. Since buoyancy force buoyancy force is proportional to density difference is proportional to density difference, and this density difference is proportional to temperature difference. So we have a significance of this value beta, that larger the temperature difference between the fluid adjacent to hot or cold surface and the fluid away from it, the larger the buoyancy force and stronger the natural convection current, and thus higher the heat transfer rate. As we have discussed, the buoyancy force is caused by the density difference between heated fluid and cold fluid and is proportional to this density difference and volume occupied by the warmer fluid. It is also known that whenever two bodies in contact move relative to each other, a friction force develops at the contact surface in the direction opposite to that of the motion. This opposing force slows down the fluid and thus reduces the flow rate of the fluid. Under steady conditions, the air flow rate driven by buoyancy is established at the point where these two effects balance each other. The friction force increases as more and more solid surfaces are introduced, which results in disrupting the fluid flow and heat transfer. In natural convection, no blowers are used and therefore the flow rate cannot be controlled externally. The flow rate in this case is established by the dynamic balance of buoyancy and friction. An interferometer produces a map of interference fringes which can be interpreted as lines of constant temperature. You can see from this figure that for laminar flow and turbulent flow, the boundary layer profile. Isotherms in natural convection over a hot plate in air. The smooth and parallel lines, that is A figure, indicate that the flow is laminar, whereas the eddies and irregularities in B indicate that flow is turbulent. The lines are closest near the surface, indicating a higher temperature gradient. See, you can find how this laminar profile is achieved and how this turbulent profile is achieved. It is because of the irregularities in the surface. It is because of the temperature variation in the plate. See, for to achieve the laminar profile, the temperature in the plate should be uniform, and there might be some variation in the this plate. So the turbulence is due to some external means. Next, equation of motion and the Grashof number. To keep the analysis at manageable level, we assume the flow to be steady. We assume flow to be laminar. We assume flow to be two-dimensional and fluid to be Newtonian fluid. Fluid to be Newtonian fluid with constant properties such as density, dynamic viscosity, thermal conductivity, etc. With one exception, with one exception that the density difference, the density difference, which is density minus density of surrounding air, is density difference is to be considered. Right. Consider a vertical hot plate. Let us clean this image. Now let us consider a vertical hot plate immersed in a quiescent fluid or static fluid. We take the upward direction along the plate be x. This is upward direction as x-axis and normal to plate as y-axis. Therefore, the gravity acts in x direction. So this is the force, gravitational force acting in downward direction along x-axis. The velocity within the boundary layer is two-dimensional. So that means velocity profile u is equal to is a function of x and y, and velocity is function of x and y. So this is two-dimensional velocity. So this is the typical velocity temperature profile for natural convection flow over a hot vertical plate at temperature Ts inserted in a fluid at temperature T infinity. T infinity is the temperature of the stationary surrounding fluid. Plate temperature is at Ts. So because of no slip condition, take the concepts of hydrodynamic boundary layer. Because of no slip condition at this point, the velocity of fluid is zero. It keeps on increasing because of that temperature difference and density variation. Fluid starts moving upward, and then as we go from the plate to some boundary layer with some boundary layer thickness delta, we get that u is again equal to 0 because at boundary layer this fluid is assumed as stationary fluid. Right. See, in this case, when the fluid flow over the flat horizontal plate, if this is a boundary layer and this is the free stream velocity, let's say u infinity is the free stream velocity, and boundary layer, the velocity is approximately 99% of the free stream velocity. So at boundary layer, the velocity is equivalent to the surrounding velocity. So here surrounding is at rest, stationary. So u equal to 0. So at boundary, the velocity is again equal to 0. So there will be maximum in between this boundary layer. Again, let the temperature of the wall is Ts, then the fluid in contact with the plate will also be at temperature Ts. As we move further, the temperature starts decreasing and decreases up to the ambient temperature. This is T infinite is ambient temperature. So the thickness of the boundary layer increases in the flow direction. Unlike forced convection, the fluid velocity is zero at the outer edge of the velocity boundary layer as well as at the surface of the plate. This is expected since the fluid beyond the boundary is motionless. So we have discussed this point that velocity at the contact point of the plate and at the boundary layer is equal to 0. At the surface, the fluid temperature is equal to the plate temperature. C. At the surface, it is equal to plate temperature and gradually decreases to temperature of the surrounding fluid at the distance sufficiently far from the surface, and it reduces to T infinite. In the case of cold surfaces, the shape of velocity and temperature profile remains the same, but their direction is reversed. So in case if we consider this plate as a cold plate, the boundary layer will be like this and velocity profile will be downwards, right? At the surface, the fluid temperature is equal to the plate temperature. We have discussed. So let us take an element. Let us take this as vertical plate. This is boundary layer, and let us take an element with length dx and dy in x and y direction, and let's say it has a unit thickness of 1, right, inside the plate. So I am enlarging this view of the element volume. This length is dx, this length is dy. Let's say this is unit thickness inside the plane. This is 1. So according to mass conservation, if we apply mass conservation here, we have mass flow rate into the control volume is equal to mass flow rate out of the or out from control volume, right? So rate of mass flow rate into the control volume is equal to mass flow rate coming out from the control volume. So let's say the velocity in y direction, I'm mentioning my reference points again. This is y axis, this is x axis. So fluid entering in y direction, let's say the velocity is v, so it is leaving at v plus dever v over dever y dy. Velocity in x direction is u, so it is leaving at u plus dever u by dever x dx. Now, the rate at which the fluid enters the control volume from bottom. From bottom, it is equal to rho times u times dy dot 1. How we get this? I'm explaining it here. Because we know the mass is equal to density into volume, right? So mass flow rate is mass per unit time, which is equal to density into volume upon time. Volume is area into height. This is equal to area into height. So we can have this density into area. Area of this base or bottom of the element is dy into 1. So this is dy dot 1 into this height. Height of this element is dx. So we can write dx upon t. Now we can see from we are considering x direction. So this dx upon t is equal to u. So we have this mass flow rate is equal to rho times u times dy dot 1. Right. So this is the mass flow rate entering from the bottom. Again, the mass flow rate coming out in x direction means from this upward direction, it is equal to rho times u plus dever u by dever x dx dy dot 1. Right. So repeating this equation in y direction, we have same results in y direction, but this suffix will be replaced. Now let's repeat for y and add with x direction. So we have net result. We can simply see the relations for y direction also. So I'm writing it all together. So this is fluid entering, mass flow rate entering in x direction plus mass flow rate entering in y direction is equal to mass flow rate coming out from x direction. This is mass flow rate coming out in x direction, and plus this is mass flow rate. So V plus dever V over dever Y dy. Similarly, the area is dx dot 1. So this is mass flow rate coming in y direction. See, here we can see rho u dy into 1. It is also in left side, so it is cancelled out. From right hand side, rho v, this is dx and 1. So I let do some correction. This term I have mentioned it wrong. It should be rho v dx dot 1, right? Because this is the velocity entering in this direction. See from this figure. So this area of cross section is dx into 1 thickness, and the height is for this element or for this direction height is dy, right? So it should be like this. So this is cancelled out. So what we have remaining is equal to dever u by dever x dx dy plus, or we should say rho times, so rho times here dever v over dever y dx dy equal to 0. I am putting this right hand side on the left hand side. So from simplification, for if the density is constant, this term is common, take it to other side, we have dever u by dever x plus dever v by dever y equal to 0. So this is, let's say this is equation number 1. This is mass conservation. So from mass conservation we have this relation we already studied in our fluid mechanics subject. So this should not be very difficult to understand. Next step is to find the momentum equation. Okay, so I'm writing the momentum equation. Momentum equation is nothing but the Newton's second law of motion. So from Newton's second law of motion, we have, let's say we are considering force in x direction, so it should be equal to elemental mass into acceleration in x direction, right? So F is equal to ma is the Newton's second law we generally know. So acceleration should be in that direction in which the force is applied, or we must say the force applied is equal to the acceleration in that particular direction. So these are interrelated. So let's say this is equation number 2. Delta m is equal to density into volume, which is elemental volume dx dot dy dot 1. For 2D flow, we know for 2D flow, velocity in x direction is function of x and y. So total derivative du is equal to dever u by dever x dx plus dever u by dever y into dy. Let's say this is equation number 3. Now, if you want to calculate the acceleration in x direction, this is acceleration of the element, fluid element in x direction. This is equal to ax, which is equal to du by dt. Now, from equation number 3, we have dever u by dever x dx over dt plus dever u over dever y dy over dt. So this dx by dt and this dy by dt is nothing but the velocity in respective directions. This is equal to u and this is equal to v. So from here we have acceleration ax is equal to u times dever u by dever x plus V times del U by del Y. Let's say this is equation number 4. So you might have some confusion that acceleration is 0 in steady flow since the acceleration is rate of change of velocity with time. But in steady flow there is no change with time. This is not correct. Steady simply means we must be very careful why we are dealing with acceleration when we are assuming that flow to be steady. So this might be a confusion for the students. So I'm clearing it because acceleration has two components. One is the temporal component and one is the convective acceleration. Right. So temporal acceleration is acceleration or rate of change of velocity with respect to time, and this is change with respect to space. Right, so temporal acceleration will be equal to 0, this is equal to 0, but this will be there. And we are dealing with this convective acceleration. So you can see this term with respect to space. This is velocity of u with respect to space in x and y. So steady simply means no change with time at a specified location. But the value of quantity may change from one location to other. Thus, del u by del x, this value and this value are not equal to 0. They are different from 0. In 2D flow, the viscous effect at any point on an imaginary surface within the fluid can be resolved into two perpendicular components. One, normal to the surface, called normal stress. We should not be confused with this pressure. And other component is along the wall surface, which is called shear stress. The normal stress is related to velocity gradient del u by del x and del v by del y. So these two components are related with normal stress that are much smaller than del u by del y. So these two components, uh, let's clear thing. I'm repeating this because there's some confusion. The normal stress is related to the velocity gradient, which is del u by del x and del v by del y, which is much less than del u by del y. This is to which shear stress is related. Right. So these two are for normal stress and this is for shear stress. So neglecting the normal stresses for simplicity, the surface forces acting on the control volume in x direction are shown in the figure. I'm deleting all this and see this is the figure. So neglecting all the normal stresses, the forces acting on differential volume element in natural convection boundary layer over a vertical flat plate. The force acting on the element are pressure forces in vertical direction, shear forces on the side surfaces, and force of gravity on the entire volume element. So, if you want to write the net force Fx, so this is equal to, if you want to talk about shear force, so this is equal to this shear force in x positive x direction minus this shear force in negative x direction plus minus of this force, pressure force, minus this force, and again this term will also be negative because it is going downwards, and we have taken our reference, this is as y plus y and this is as plus x. So this is downwards, so this will be minus w. So by taking into the account and I'm writing it directly, after subtraction, this is shear stress dy. If we want to convert it into shear force, we have to multiply this with area dx dot 1. See, from this figure, this is negative sign. So minus of del p over del x dx area. This is again pressure. And now, after multiplying with area, this becomes pressure force. Again, the weight, which is rho times gravitational force into volume dx dot dy dot 1. After substituting the value of shear stress from the Newtonian fluid, this is del u by del y. Replaces into this equation, we have Fx is equal to mu times del square u over del y square minus del p over del x minus rho g, and taking all dx into dy into 1 as common. This is dx dot dy dot 1. See, it has dx dy, it has dx dy dot what? It has dx dy dot 1. So we have taken it all together. So this, let's say this is equation number 5. Now use equation number 3, 4 and 5 in 2. Use in equation number 2. Which equation? 3, 4 and 5. And rearranging, we have left hand side, we have del u by del x plus v del u over del y, which is equal to mu times del square u by del y square minus del p over del x minus rho g. And let's say this is equation number 6. Now, x momentum equation in quiescent fluid or static fluid outside the boundary layer are obtained by putting u equal to 0. If I put u equal to 0 in equation number 6, then this term will cancel out, this term cancel out, this term cancel out. So we have this del p over del x equal to minus times of rho g, with slight modification that at boundary layer, if the fluid is stationary, the pressure will be of atmospheric and the density of fluid will be of atmospheric. So this equation we get, let's say this is equation number 7, and it is similar to relation for variation of hydrostatic pressure in quiescent fluid with certain height. Now, in boundary layer, velocity component in flow direction is much larger than that in normal direction. That means velocity component along the plate is much greater than velocity in y direction. So this we have to remember. Because of this, the components del v over del x, del v over del y, which are neglected, or we can be neglected. In our calculation, these two terms can be neglected. Remember, the velocity in x direction is much larger than the velocity normal to the plate. So all these derivatives are very small and can be neglected. Now, there are no body forces including gravity in y direction. That is, the force balance in that direction means in y direction. After putting all these values and remembering, rewriting the equation number 6 for y direction, we have directly del p over del y equal to 0. This you can done by your own. Also, this is not very difficult because we already neglect del v over del x and del v over del y. Neglect. So after deriving equation number 6 for y direction, these terms will cancel out and we get this result. So that means variation of pressure in direction normal to the surface is negligible. Now put equation number 7 in 6. From last slide, put equation number 7 in 6. We have density u del u by del x plus v del u by del y is equal to mu times del square u by del y square. And remember, we are putting in equation number 6 and taking some modification and rearrangements. It is rho infinity minus rho into g. Let's say this is equation number 8 and this is the net upward force per unit volume of fluid. This initiates the convection current. Remember, this initiates the convection current. Now, we already have in our previous slides that rho infinity minus rho is equal to rho times beta into temperature difference. See, we have already derived this density variation in terms of temperature difference, and let's say here this equation is 9. Now put this equation number 9 in equation number 8 and rearrange. We do some arrangements and we get that u times dever u by dever x plus v times dever u over dever y is equal to mu times dever square u by dever y square plus g beta t minus t infinity, and then let's say this is equation number 10. So this is the equation that governs the fluid motion in boundary layer due to effect of buoyancy, right? So this is very important equation. I'm moving forward in these slides and you will take these results at one place. So from Newton's second law, these were the results we have calculated. Now this was equation number 6. Then we have to done this. This was equation number 9. We put it in equation number 8 and we get this equation as equation number 10. So as per our derivation, this was equation number 10, this was equation number 9, this was 8, and so on, right? So you can simply recall all these equations. So this is the equation that governs the fluid motion in boundary layer due to the effect of buoyancy. The momentum equation involves the temperature, and thus the momentum and energy equation must be solved simultaneously. Before to move further, we have to mention a Boussinesq approximation. It states that the effect of the density variation can be neglected with respect to other parameters, except which includes the effect of gravity. Next is conservation of energy equation. We know, as per the conservation of energy, that energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. Only one form changes from one form to other form. And if you talk about the control volume, that whatever amount of energy is coming into the control volume and whatever amount of energy is going out from the control volume is equal to the change in that control volume. So if we talk mathematically, we can say that coming in energy, coming out energy is equal to the change in system. And if we talk about the steady flow systems, that change is equal to 0. That means whatever energy is coming into the system is equal to energy going out from the system. So the energy can be transferred in heat, work, and mass modes. So we can add as a summation of all these modes is equal to 0 for steady state. We can also mention that energy of a fluid per unit mass is sum of enthalpy plus kinetic energy plus potential energy. And generally, we neglect the changes in potential and kinetic energy with respect to enthalpy because these values are very small with respect to enthalpy. So we can have the energy of a stream is equal to enthalpy, and for ideal gas, it is equal to Cp into T. And this is a system we used as a control volume, and in this, the energy with different modes via heat or mass is taking place in respective x and y directions, coming out and coming in a control volume. This is a two-dimensional problem we have taken. So mathematically, if we consider about the energy interaction with respect to mass, so this is the equation. Whatever mass coming in, whatever mass energy mass coming out is equal to the difference, and we can say these two will cancel out and we have this term. We have already discussed that this mass flow rate is equal to rho times u times dy dot 1, and energy stream in previous slide it is equal to Cp into T. So we have this term. Next, rho and Cp are constants, so we can take it out from the differentiation and differentiate this remaining term u and temperature. We have this relation. Similarly, we do this equation, this mathematical calculation for y direction, and adding, we have the complete result for x and y direction in terms of mass transfer or in terms of energy interaction with respect to mass. After solving this, we have only this term left because see, this term and this term is taken together. And if we talk about these two terms and we're taking common, so rho Cp will be common, temperature is common, and remaining is del U by del X plus del V by del Y dx dy. So this term will be next. So and because of the continuity equation, this is equal to 0. So it is cancelled out and we left with minus rho Cp bracket u del t by del x plus v del t by del y bracket close dx into dy. So this is the energy interaction due to mass. Next, the net rate of heat conduction to volume element in x direction may be represented as the energy interaction or change in energy interaction is coming in, this is coming in, and this is term coming out. So this is minus. These two terms when cancelled out, we have this conduction equation. We have minus k times Ka del T over del X. This is Fourier's law of heat conduction. So by rearranging this term, we have k times del square t by del x square dx dy. Again, this is done in x direction. We do same analysis for y direction and adding, we have this result. Note that we have already considered work in presence of significant gravitational, electric, and magnetic force. So work done by pressure is already taken into account in the analysis using enthalpy terms, because enthalpy is nothing but it is sum of internal energy plus PV, and PV is nothing but the flow work. So we have already considered this flow work into the enthalpy term. So we'll not do separate analysis for this. The shear stress that results from viscous effect are usually very small. So the energy equation for 2D flow of fluid with constant properties and negligible shear stress is obtained by this equation. We have combined previous two equations. Now, the complete set of conservation equations, continuity, momentum, and energy that governs the natural convection flow over vertical isothermal plates are. These are the three equations: the continuity equation, momentum equation, and energy equation. This equation, how we have derived from the previous case or from the previous slide, you can see if we take this left hand side, this term from the left hand side to right, so alpha is equal to k upon rho Cp. So this is next modified form, right? This is nothing but the modified form, and we have to remember these two boundary conditions, that at y equal to 0, the velocities in x and y direction is equal to 0, and temperature is equal to the surface temperature of the plate. At y is equal to infinity, that is the boundary layer thickness, again the velocity is equal to 0 and temperature is equal to the ambient temperature of the surroundings. So the above set of three partial differential equations can be reduced to a set of two ordinary nonlinear differential equations by the introduction of a similarity variables, but the resulting equations must still be solved along with their transformed boundary conditions numerically. So in order to simplify these two equations, we non-dimensionalize all these terms. So before to study, we must know what is Grashof number. The governing equations of natural convection and boundary conditions can be non-dimensionalized by dividing all dependent and independent variables by suitable constant quantities, and we'll choose these quantities accordingly. Let's say the characteristic length L, the free stream velocity V, and temperature. So this X star, this prefix or the subscript, this star means this is non-dimensionalized. Its unit is meter. See, its unit is meter, characteristic length unit meter. So both is cancelled out, so it becomes dimensionless. Again, y is again a unit of distance. V or u, this velocity is meter per second. Free stream velocity meter per second. So these all are cancelled out. It becomes dimensionless. So if you want to write the x momentum equation, we can have a term. I'm writing the x momentum equation first. This is derivative u by derivative x plus v times derivative u by derivative y, which is equal to mu times rho derivative square u by derivative y square plus g beta times t minus t infinity. This was the equation. Now, I must tell you about the temperature non-dimensionalized term. See, this is, in some books you may find it equal to theta. And now, if you see, the T infinity temperature is the surrounding temperature, Ts is the plate temperature. So these two temperatures are fixed. The only variable temperature is T, and it varies as per the distance from the wall. Okay, so let's talk at y equal to 0 means at wall the temperature is equal to Ts. So if you put this Ts in this equation, you get theta or T star equal to 1. At y equal to infinity or at delta, boundary layer thickness, delta or infinity, this temperature is equal to T infinite. So in that case, this theta will be equal to 0. So the value of this non-dimensional number is 0 at the boundary layer and 1 at the wall surface. Now we are non-dimensionalized the x momentum equation. This is nothing but x momentum equation, right? So from these non-dimensionalized terms, we have u star is equal to u by free stream velocity, and we, in some books you may find it like v infinite, like this is free stream velocity. So you will have u can be replaced as u star into v infinite, and this is a constant term. Similarly, v star is equal to v u over v infinity, which is equal to v is equal to v star into v infinity, right? So replacing all these terms, in the first term I'm writing it like uh, replacing u by this term from here. So we can have u star v infinity over u star v infinity upon over x. X is replaced by, from this you can see, x is replaced by x star LC. Now plus v star v infinity over v star v infinity. I used v infinity, capital V infinity, as just to differentiate between the small v and the capital V. And this is y star LC. It is equal to mu upon rho over square u star v infinity upon over y star L C इसका whole square plus g times beta. And now from this equation, see, you can see t minus t infinite can be replaced as t star ts minus t infinity. In some books this term may be replaced as g beta theta ts minus t infinity. So they both are same. Now, because v infinity is a constant, so it may be taken out from the differential. LC is constant, fixed property. So we can modify this equation as u star v infinity square over u star over this LC over x star plus v infinity square upon LC V star dever times V star over dever Y star. It is equal to mu times mu divided by rho V infinity dever square U star LC dever Y star whole square plus G beta theta Ts minus T infinity. Now you can see this V infinity square upon LC, V infinity square upon LC of phase change velocity upon characteristic length. It is common, so we can take it together and we can write it like dever U star over dever X star plus V star dever V star over dever Y star is equal to mu V infinity upon LC rho dever square U star upon dever Y star square plus G beta theta Ts minus T infinity. Right. So you can see this term, and if you compare this equation, let's say this is first equation and let's say this is second equation, and if you compare equation first from second, you can see the almost the resemblance is same, but you have certain constant parameters also. So this is the advantage of non-dimensionalizing, that it resembles the same, but it gives more significance of the happening inside the mechanism. So if we take this V square upon LC to the right side and modify it, we have U star dever U star over dever Y star plus V star dever V star over dever Y star is equal to, I'm not doing this all the mathematics here, you can simply put or divide this on the right hand side completely. So you have mu upon rho LC characteristic length and V infinity. One thing I must correct here, said this was LC square, so it should be LC square. It should be here LC square. So this will be cancelled out and remain LC. In bracket we have dever square U star over dever Y star square and plus G beta theta. I must remove this theta. I will put it outside this because we have some other number. We can generate some other number also. So G beta Ts minus T infinity times characteristic length upon V infinity square and in bracket theta. Right. So you can see this again, this if we see this is equation number third, then again it almost resembles like equation number 1 and 2. This is nothing different. So this number in bracket is known as Archimedes number. Archimedes number. Right. So I'm writing this result all together in a one slide. After simplifying, how we get this term? So from that previous topic, what we got the result, I'm modifying it like G beta Ts minus T infinity times LC upon V infinity square. Right, this was the Archimedes number, and I'm multiplying it with mu square LC square upon mu square LC square. Right, so multiplying and divide by the same number and rearranging this, we have G beta Ts minus T infinity Lc cube upon nu square, and we have taken together that this nu over V infinity Lc whole square, right? So after doing this, we can have a new number here. This is again a dimensionless number. If we put all the values of the G beta in terms of their units, you will get this a dimensionless number, and we say this dimensionless number is Greshoff's number. This is Greshoff's number, and what this number, which is nothing but the reverse of Reynolds number, right? You can see this is 1 upon Reynolds number. So this equation, the previous equation in our previous slide, what we have done by using our ink pen, this equation can be modified using these non-dimensional numbers, right? See, this is Greshoff number. I'm making it more visible to you. Greshoff number represents the natural convection effect in momentum equation, where all these terms G, beta, Ts, T infinite, Lc and nu have their meaning. Next, our x momentum equation can be written as like this. This is further modified using the previous equation, and this term is known as inertia term. This term is viscous, and the last term is the buoyancy force. So if it gives the better view of understanding how natural convection takes place. So whatever the flow regime in force convection is governed by the dimensionless Reynolds number, which was the ratio of inertia force to viscous force. In natural convection, it is same governed by the Greshoff number. So we have a Greshoff number provides the main criteria in determining whether the fluid is laminar or turbulent in natural convection. For vertical plates, the critical Greshoff number is observed to be about 10 to the power 9 for laminar flow. So we can have a conclusion that the role played by the Reynolds number in forced convection is placed by Greshoff number in natural convection. So what was the reason for non-dimensionalizing? It is easier to recognize when to apply familiar mathematical techniques. It reduces the number of times we might have to solve the equation numerically, and it gives us insight into what might be small parameter that could be ignored or treated approximately. It facilitates scale up obtained results to real conditions. So when the surface is subjected to external flow, the problem involves both natural and forced convection. See, this is an object which is subjected to external flows as well. So we have, when the surface is subjected to external flow, then relative importance of each mode of heat transfer is determined by the value of the coefficient Greshoff number upon Reynolds numbers square. This is very important parameter. That means if Greshoff number upon Reynolds number means this ratio is less than 1, then natural convection is negligible. Why? Because Grashof number is effect of buoyancy force upon viscous force, right? And Reynolds number is ratio of inertia force to viscous force, इसका square. So net effect is, this one is cancelled out. So net effect will get buoyancy force into viscous force upon inertia force times square. So if this is much less than 1, that means inertia force is dominant and buoyancy force. Then no natural convection can take place. Similarly, for free convection domination, the force if convection effects are negligible, this ratio should be greater than 1. That means the buoyancy effect should be much higher than 1. Both effects are significant and must be considered when this ratio is approximately equal to 1. So you can go through this equation again. This is the significance of Grashof number. This is buoyancy force upon viscous force. So we'll stop here today. Next lecture, we'll discuss about natural convection over surfaces. We'll discuss about the significance of Rayleigh number, Nusselt number, and Prandtl number. We'll also derive certain correlations for temperature and boundary profiles. So this is all for today's lecture. Thank you very much.